Okay, welcome back to the instructional video. Now we're going to try and join the two airframes together. The two halves, this is the lower half. We've tried to make sure all these wires are placed well without them getting caught in the airframe once these are put together. That's a common problem. Here I can see this black wire might be in the way. Let's try and move it. There we are. So just make sure that along the seams there are no wires to be caught. If there are, that's going to really cause you to take this thing back apart again. How many screws are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 20, about 20 screws, about 40 screws. 40 plus these, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, probably 50 screws. You don't want to do this again. You really don't. I mean, I've done it 3 times. It's very unpleasant. Okay, so now we're going to join these. You want to get the GPS plugged back in, so here's our GPS wire right here with the top of the airframe, and the plug for that is, as I recall, it's under the, it always ends up under the power wire, so if I move these wires around and look for that plug, it's not there. Okay, that plug is on the left back of the airframe here. The plug for the GPS is right here. So probably by plugging this GPS back in, I'm going to mess up all the wires, but let's try it. Okay, having to move all the wires around. This is a messy operation here. Let's try and plug the GPS back in. This, of course, is going to unravel all the wiring. Looks like it's getting close to being seated here. There. So the GPS is now plugged in. As you can see, top of the frame and bottom are attached with the GPS line, which is like an umbilical cord. Okay, so let's reroute the wires again, and this might be where some people get in trouble because they have to plug that in and they mess up their wiring and they get sliced because they're in a hurry. So there's no reason to do this again. There's 50 screws. I don't like doing 50 screws again. I don't like soldering wires anymore, so let's not screw this up, okay? There we go. So I think that the wires are routed correctly. I can't see any problems. Can you see any problems? Okay, so joining these frames is tough. They don't seem to fit right until you start putting screws into them. After doing this twice, it hasn't been the easiest thing to do. So I'm looking at the compass wire here. I see it kind of flopping around. Just don't let it get near the frame, because that little black wire would get sliced pretty quick. So it's out of the way of the frame. I think we're okay. So now all we're going to do is line this thing up. And the bugaboo with this is the battery. The battery door is a headache. So you usually want to now look at the wiring and say, what is going to impact this thing? Since we're pretty close together, do a final check. These wires are falling out. We'll push them in. Looks good. The wires get sliced right around these edges here. These wires are in. How about the back? See what I mean? This little ESC control wire here was about to get sliced. Let's put it down. And they all look pretty good now. The problem is when you put it together and you slice wires, you have to take it back apart and solder wires. You're not in a very good mood after that. It spoils your day. Now we're going to make sure the wire for the GPS is not in the way. I'm just kind of holding it back here. I should tape it, but holding it, and I'm going to try and mate these frames together. To get these to go together, you have to line up the battery compartment correctly. So here, you want the battery compartment ahead of the ridges. This battery compartment is not between ridges, it's not behind the ridges, it's ahead of the ridges. And there's a piece I didn't put on. Forgot to get that on there. I guess it's too late now. We can do it later. So here I see that we're not lined up. We have to go forward, so let's go forward a bit. Okay, I stand corrected. The battery compartment is between these two little ridges, which keeps it stable. And as I recall, this is really tough to do. So when I have it between these ridges, it doesn't fit. It kind of jams in there. So before, I had this thing in front of these ridges. So the battery compartment is sliding in front of the ridges. It looks like that sort of lines up. Yep. So this is always messy to do, but it looks like that's how it goes. It's all lining up now. So here, it's critical again to check for the wires, because the wires are going to get sliced right along these sharp edges, because this thing really compresses down for a tight fit, so it's rigid. And you can see the GPS wire here is about to get sliced, so we're going to want to punch that back in there. I don't see anything else here around that's going to get sliced up, so when these are joined, you press them together hard. So it looks like we're close. Check the battery door. Yeah, it's working nice. I still got to screw in the little retainer thing there. We can do it later. There's the wire we'll need to program the motors to just set them, so we'll keep the programming wire out here. And that's about it. So I think we're ready to put this together now. Let's make sure that the GPS wire, see how it's about to get sliced up? So we're going to poke this wire back. Easily, don't put a hole in the wire. Now it looks like the wire is stuck between where the screws go in. This happened last time too. So you want to lift this up carefully without taking it apart. And move the wire there. Now we have the wire back in there a ways. You might want to poke it with an Allen wrench or something to get it out of the way. There. So as you can see now, the GPS wire is out of the way. It's not going to be crunched or sliced. I don't see any other wires that are going to be sliced. Do you? No? Yeah, they all look pretty good, don't they? This is where I was careless last time. I sliced it. In fact, I took this thing apart 3 times last time because of mistakes, and boy, that was sickening. So let's not do that again. Okay, so the back here has to be lined up. Looks like it is. Yeah, see how it's going together? You hear the crunching sound where it's kind of going together? All this stuff just kind of lines up. It's really kind of an art of now compressing it. Hear how it's compressing here in the front? Now when it starts to go together, the way I do is I keep the front together, and as you can see, the front here is lining up. So it's simply a matter of compressing all this stuff now. And the way I've done this is I put a few bolts in the edges. If I get the edges right, I'll put a few bolts in the wings on the sides to get these things to stay so they're not wobbling all around. So I have tons of old bolts, but they're really worn from being in and out 4 times. So I'm going to use a whole bunch of these new ones, right? I'll leave the old ones there. And we'll start putting the new ones. So I'll start a new video here to put these bolts in.